The arduous process of starting a Nintendo game is frustrating, time-consuming, and it's making my games better. When I started out this year, one of my rules wasn't just that I was only allowed to play these 8-bit games, but that I was not allowed to use any emulators. Now, that means when I want to play an NES game, I have to have a physical cartridge and put it in the physical system, you know, the normal way. Now, playing an NES game on an emulator is, at least on the surface, a different means to exactly the same end. You're still playing that NES game, only it replaces this with software. Really, the key difference is, instead of having to go through that horrible process of putting in the game, taking it out, blowing in the cartridge, jimmying the thing back and forth until you can get a good connection, it just replaces the whole thing with about 3 clicks and no effort, and you can start a new game instantaneously. So yeah, that should just make the whole experience way better. Just take out all that horrible frustration and you're all set. Now, I don't question that the game you're playing is technically the same game, but experientially, it's a whole different thing. Last week I mentioned that I'd only ever played Excitebike for about 5 minutes at a time. The reason for this is because I only ever played Excitebike on emulators. So while I started playing, I knew in the back of my mind that I was about 5 seconds away from playing something else. If that game wasn't immediately engaging me 100%, I could just switch out to something else in a second. If I'm playing the game on Animal Crossing, I have a dozen other NES games to choose from. If I'm playing it on my computer, I have probably several hundred. But when I played the same game the old-fashioned way, I forced myself to have a deeper and more long-lasting play experience. Why? Because it already took me 5 goddamn minutes to get the thing started. Getting that game to work just right can really take some effort sometimes. So if I switch to a different game, not only am I just throwing away that time I spent getting the first game to work, but I'm robbing myself of that prize that I worked so hard to attain. Even if this prize isn't exactly the game you're looking for, you're willing to make it worth your while and dig into it a little bit just because it's a simpler process than starting this whole thing over again. It's the process that changes your entire relationship with the game. If the process is easy, the game has to meet your needs immediately. If the process is difficult, you have to adjust your expectations to what the game is giving you, and you might just be surprised at how much you enjoy what you find in there, given a little patience. Now, I firmly believe that the most successful NES emulator, by which I mean the most accurate, is the e-reader, Nintendo's short-lived accessory for the Game Boy Advance that allowed you to play NES games by scanning cards through a card reader. So if you want to play Urban Champion, that's 9 different scans. And there's an art to avoiding those read errors. So the whole process is probably going to take you about 3 or 4 minutes. But the thing does have an internal memory that holds 1 game. So that means every time you turn on your e-reader, you have a choice. Either play the game that's already loaded into the memory, or take the time to scan a new game. Now, this process is an intentional design choice that makes the games themselves a reward, not just for making you wait, but for putting forward a little skilled labor up front. Now, I'm not saying that having instant access to games is necessarily worse, but it does make the whole thing different. The instant gratification you get of immediately being able to see a photograph you just took on your digital camera is nice, but inherently less memorable than taking a photograph on film and waiting sometimes weeks for it to be developed. It's sort of the same principle. But on the other hand, oh, come on, start please. I just want to play the game. I gotta go to work tomorrow. Just let me play it. Just let me play it. I wanna, so I should. I wanna, so let me. Let please. Oh, you son of a